Sam here. The 2026 Canadian Grand Prix was supposed to be George Russell's redemption weekend. George Russell started from pole, led the race, and retired on lap 30 with a power unit failure. Kimi Antonelli won his fourth consecutive Grand Prix. The championship gap is now 43 points. Let's break down exactly what happened in Montreal. The 2026 Canadian Grand Prix was supposed to be George Russell's redemption weekend. After a difficult race in Miami where his 19-year-old teammate Kimi Antonelli took all the headlines, Russell arrived in Montreal with something to prove. And for the first half of the weekend, he did exactly that. He took pole position for the sprint race. He won the sprint race. He took pole position for the main Grand Prix. He was driving like a man possessed, determined to show everyone that he is still the leader of the Mercedes team. But on lap 30 of the Grand Prix, everything fell apart in the most dramatic way possible. Russell was leading the race, locked in an intense, high-speed battle with Antonelli. The two Mercedes drivers had been trading blows since the very start of the race. Antonelli had initially taken the lead off the line, but both Mercedes drivers were actually mugged by Lando Norris going into the first corner. Once that chaos settled down, Russell took the lead back from Antonelli at turn 13 on lap 6. From that moment on, it was a straight fight between the two teammates. Russell was defending hard against the teenager, managing his tyres and trying to control the pace from the front. Then, suddenly, without any warning lights or radio messages, his car lost all power. Toto Wolff later explained exactly what happened. He said it was a module failure, specifically a battery failure. The car literally went dark. There was no electricity left in the car at all. It was a sudden, complete shutdown of the power unit, giving Russell absolutely no warning and no chance to save the car. He coasted into the runoff area at the exit of turn 9 and parked the car. And that is when the frustration boiled over. Russell climbed out of the cockpit, grabbed his headrest and threw it away from the car in pure anger. The problem was, he threw it so hard that it landed on the active racetrack. He then walked away, slamming his gloves together in disgust. It was a raw, unfiltered moment of emotion from a driver who usually keeps his cool. That moment of anger actually got him in trouble with the FIA. The stewards called him in after the race to investigate the incident as an unsafe act, because throwing equipment onto a live track is strictly forbidden. Russell was handed a €5,000 fine, which was suspended for 12 months. He admitted to the stewards that he was embarrassed by his actions and apologised, saying it did not set a good example. But you can understand why he was so angry. When he spoke to the media later, his words were heartbreaking. He said he was in disbelief. He said, "It feels like somebody doesn't want me to fight or compete for this championship." He pointed out that in 3 of the last 5 races, something has gone completely against him. He was, in his own words, lost for words. And the reality of the championship standings shows exactly why this hurt so much. This was not just a lost race, it was a massive swing in the title fight. Because while Russell was walking back to the garage, Kimi Antonelli was driving away with the race. The 19-year-old Italian took full advantage of Russell's retirement. Once the virtual safety car period ended, Antonelli found himself with a comfortable 6-second lead over Max Verstappen, who had managed to pass Lewis Hamilton earlier in the race. From that point on, Antonelli controlled the pace perfectly. He managed the gap, looked after his equipment, and crossed the line to take his 4th consecutive Grand Prix victory. Let that sink in for a moment. A 19-year-old driver in his 2nd season of Formula 1 has just won 4 Grand Prix races in a row. He won in China, he won in Japan, he won in Miami, and now he has won in Canada. He is the first driver in Formula 1 history to have his first 4 Grand Prix victories happen consecutively. The points swing in Montreal was massive. Russell was on track to take points away from Antonelli. Instead, he scored 0 in the main race, while Antonelli took the full 25 points. The championship standings now look incredibly difficult for Russell. Kimi Antonelli leads the World Championship with 131 points. George Russell is in 2nd place, but he only has 88 points. That is a gap of 43 points. To put that into perspective, even if Russell wins the next race and Antonelli fails to finish, Antonelli will still be leading the championship. Russell himself admitted after the race that the title is now Antonelli's to lose. But the problem for Russell is not just the points gap. The bigger problem is the pure speed of his teammate. Even before the engine failure, Antonelli was putting Russell under immense pressure. On lap 24, Antonelli actually overtook Russell for the lead by going off the track at turn 13. His race engineer, Peter Bonington, immediately told him to give the position back, which he did. But the fact that Antonelli was close enough to make that move, on a track where Russell is traditionally very strong, shows just how fast the teenager is right now. Many people in the paddock noted that Antonelli looked faster than Russell for most of the weekend. Russell had the edge in qualifying and the sprint, but in race pace, Antonelli was relentless. For a driver like Russell, who has waited years for a championship-winning car, having a 19-year-old teammate match and sometimes beat his pace is a massive psychological challenge. And it is not just Mercedes making headlines. The Canadian Grand Prix was a wild race for the rest of the grid too. Lewis Hamilton had his best result of the season so far, finishing in second place for Ferrari. He managed to pass Max Verstappen with just 7 laps to go, showing that Ferrari still has strong race pace. Verstappen himself finally got back on the podium, finishing third. It was his first podium of the 2026 season, which is crazy to think about given his absolute dominance in recent years. Red Bull is clearly still struggling to match the raw pace of the Mercedes cars, but a podium finish is a step in the right direction for the defending champion. Further down the order, we also saw a fantastic performance from Franco Colapinto in the Alpine. He finished in 6th place, securing the best result of his Formula One career so far, even after hitting the barrier at the pit lane exit following his pit stop. On the other end of the spectrum, McLaren had an absolute disaster of a weekend. They made a shocking strategy call at the start of the race, putting both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri on intermediate tyres while the track was completely dry. It was a massive gamble that failed instantly. Norris had to pit on lap 2 to change to slick tyres, ruining his race from the start. Things only got worse for McLaren as the race went on. Norris later had to pit again to clear debris from his side pods after going off at turn 4. The virtual safety car actually helped him recover to 8th place for a brief moment, but then his car lost drive on lap 40 at turn 10, forcing him to coast into retirement. Piastri could only manage an 11th place finish, ending up outside the points entirely after colliding with Alex Albon at the hairpin. That collision actually forced Albon to retire from the race, capping off a miserable weekend for the Williams driver who had already missed sprint qualifying after hitting a groundhog in practice. Piastri was brutally honest after the race, saying the team looked like idiots for trying the intermediate tyre gamble. But the story of the weekend always comes back to the Mercedes garage. George Russell is now facing the biggest test of his career. He has the car to win the World Championship. He has the talent to win the World Championship. But he is fighting against a teammate who seems to have endless momentum, and he is fighting against a car that keeps letting him down at the worst possible moments. When Russell said, "The gods don't want me to fight," you could hear the exhaustion in his voice. He knows that a 43-point gap is huge. He knows that Antonelli is not going to make many mistakes. And he knows that he cannot afford a single mechanical failure for the rest of the season if he wants to stay in this fight. The next race is the Monaco Grand Prix. It is a track where qualifying is everything and where driver confidence is tested more than anywhere else. Russell needs a perfect weekend in Monaco. He needs to beat Antonelli, he needs the car to survive, and he needs to start closing that 43-point gap. If he can do that, the championship fight is still alive. But if Antonelli wins again in Monaco, we might be looking at the moment the 2026 World Championship was decided. What do you guys think? Is the championship over, or can George Russell bounce back from this disaster? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to stay up to date with all the latest Formula One news and analysis, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.